The moment she saw him, her heart clenched. In the bustling chaos of Denver International Airport, with travelers rushing past, dragging suitcases and struggling to keep up with flight announcements, a tiny figure stood frozen near the gate, clutching a small backpack to his chest. The boy couldn't have been more than 7 years old. His wide, anxious eyes darted around the busy terminal, and his little fingers fidgeted nervously with the zipper of his bag. Something about him made her stop dead in her tracks. She had seen a lot in her years of working in airports, but never had she seen such vulnerability wrapped in the fragile shell of a child attempting to appear brave. Her instinct screamed that this boy needed help, someone to notice him, someone to care. She edged closer, her footsteps careful, almost hesitant, as if approaching him too quickly might startle him. She could feel the weight of his fear as if it were a tangible thing pressing against her chest. There was no parent in sight, no reassuring hand on his shoulder, just the endless tide of strangers moving around him, oblivious. Her chest tightened with empathy, and a tear threatened to escape, not for him, not yet, but for the loneliness that clung to him like a shadow. In that instant, she decided she couldn't walk away. Her name was Sarah, a woman who had faced her own share of hardships, and she recognized the unmistakable signs of quiet desperation. She knelt down slightly, offering him a gentle smile, and whispered a soft, encouraging word. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. The boy's lips trembled as he looked up at her, hesitant but hungry for connection. His name was Jacob, and the story etched across his small face was one of silent battles and unspoken burdens. He explained, in halting words, that he was flying alone to New York to see his father, someone he hardly ever saw. The ticket had been booked with precision. The boarding passes printed, the instructions clear, but the absence of a familiar face to guide him had left him stranded in a swirl of fear. His father, he explained, was a single dad with a busy life, a man who had worked tirelessly to build a successful career in finance, leaving little room for the tender moments of everyday parenting. Despite the wealth and the comforts that surrounded him, Jacob often felt invisible, a small, overlooked presence in his father's life. Sarah felt a pang in her heart. She could almost taste the bittersweet loneliness he carried. She offered to sit with him, staying near enough to be a comfort without crowding him. Minutes ticked by, each one stretching longer than the last. She offered him a snack from her bag, a small gesture, but one that carried weight. He ate hesitantly, occasionally glancing up to make sure she wasn't going anywhere. In the soft murmur of announcements and rolling luggage, a fragile trust began to form. He began to speak more freely, sharing little stories about his school, his favorite video games, and how he missed his father's presence in the evenings. With each word, the tension in his shoulders eased, replaced by the flickering warmth of being seen and understood. Then, just as the boarding call echoed across the terminal, a man appeared, tall, impeccably dressed, and exuding the kind of quiet confidence that wealth and achievement often bring. He scanned the area with an intensity that spoke of panic disguised as composure. His name was Jonathan, and he was Jacob's father. For all his success, he was unprepared for the sight of his son standing alone, the small boy's anxious eyes meeting his with a mixture of relief and silent accusation. He rushed forward, calling Jacob's name, his voice trembling despite the controlled exterior he usually maintained. Sarah stepped back, sensing that her role was complete, yet unable to tear her eyes away from the reunion. Jonathan scooped Jacob into his arms, holding him tightly as if the past months of absence could be erased in that embrace. Jacob clung to him, burying his face in his father's chest, and for the first time that day, both father and son allowed themselves to simply feel. The lines of tension on Jonathan's face softened, replaced by the raw, unpolished truth of a man realizing how fleeting these moments truly are. He had been a provider, a protector in financial terms, but he had neglected the simplest and most profound way to provide, by simply being present. Sarah watched quietly, her heart swelling with a mixture of joy and melancholy. She had intervened, yes, but this reunion was not about her. It was about two lives reconnecting in the chaotic rhythm of an ordinary airport. She saw Jonathan kneel slightly, bringing his face closer to Jacob's, his voice breaking as he whispered promises he had never fully kept. Jacob's small hand reached out to touch his father's cheek, and in that moment the walls between them, built of missed birthdays, late-night calls, and silent dinners, began to crumble. Jonathan turned toward Sarah, gratitude and vulnerability mingling in his eyes. "Thank you," he said simply, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken emotions. He explained that he had been so focused on building a secure life for Jacob, on leaving him a world of comfort and opportunity, that he forgot the most basic need of all: love, presence, and attention. Sarah smiled softly, feeling the ripple of relief and hope spreading through the air. She knew that while wealth could buy many things, it could never buy the warmth of a parent's embrace or the reassurance that a child is truly seen. As they walked toward the gate, Sarah felt a gentle nudge in her chest. She realized that small acts of compassion could ignite profound change, that noticing someone when they are most vulnerable can create ripples far beyond the moment itself. The story wasn't just about Jacob or Jonathan. It was about the quiet power of empathy, the bravery required to step into someone else's fear, and the extraordinary effects of simple human kindness. In that bustling airport, among strangers and announcements, a small miracle had unfolded. A boy's fear had been replaced with hope, a father's guilt had been softened with love, and Sarah had become an unseen but pivotal part of that transformation. Before the story ends, I have a special request. Please leave a comment sharing a moment when someone's kindness changed your life. As the plane doors closed behind them and the boarding line moved forward, Sarah felt tears streaming down her cheeks. It was a reminder that life's most meaningful moments are not those measured by material success, but by emotional connection, by the courage to care, and by the willingness to show up when it matters most. For Jacob, a nervous little boy who had once been alone, the future suddenly felt safer, brighter, and full of love. And for Jonathan, a wealthy single dad, he had learned the invaluable truth that time, attention, and heartfelt presence are the real treasures we can offer to those we love. If this story touched your heart, please engage with the video, share it, and let someone else know that even in the busiest places, compassion can create extraordinary moments. In a world that moves too fast, we can all choose to notice, to care, and to make a difference.